We are not actually considering Ethiopia only for feeding its own people. So we see Ethiopia and Africa as a food basket of the world. The reach of digital banking and microfinance was limited to around 45% people, but suddenly it has increased to 65% of the Ethiopian population. I feel that Ethiopia is still on the right track. This homegrown economic agenda of Ethiopia is one of the great aspects that, of course, it has stabilized the macroeconomy of Ethiopia. It has increased the participation of private sector, and it is focused on market-oriented economy. Despite the challenges, this is also the fact that Ethiopia has potential, and those challenges doesn't affect Ethiopia's potential at all.
Today, we are honored to have Mr. Ravi Shankar, the commercial representative of India Embassy to Ethiopia. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Ravi.
Thank you. Thank you, Bijamanot.
Ethiopia and India shared a long history of economic and business ties, which stretched back over 2,000 years. During the Aksumite era, Indian investors used to engage with Adolis port, exchanging silk and spices for gold and ivory. Currently, as Ethiopia's economy opened up, these relationships, these business and trade relationships, have deepened significantly, especially in areas such as agriculture, manufacturing, and infrastructure. The formal framework for these trade relationships have been documented in agreements. India and Ethiopia have signed bilateral investment promotion and protection agreement in 2007. There is also a double taxation treaty which was signed in 2011. And in 1997, India and Ethiopia Chamber of Commerce have established a co-business council which will facilitate the business opportunities in the countries. There are more than 500 Indian companies which have already invested in Ethiopia. And India is the second largest foreign employer in Ethiopia, having more than 75,000 employees in the country. And recently, India has been supporting the Ethiopian government in its bid for membership to BRICS. So how do you see the evolvement of Indian investment in Ethiopia over the past decade?
Actually, we normally talk about, of course, 2000 years of our relationships, but I feel that our relations goes long back. So if I go millions of years back, then there was a supercontinent that is called Pangaea. And in that Pangaea, we have actually very close borders. And that can be one of the reasons that our faces are similar and our habits are similar, and that resulted in close and strengthened relationship between the two countries, and not only the countries but in other terms also. So like Indian culture and Indian cuisine are quite famous in Ethiopia. So of course, you talked about this Aksumite kingdom, where was the written evidences is available that there was, of course, a trade relationship between two countries. And there is one fact that Aksumite coins, those were found in many archaeological sites in southern part of India, and that is believed of about 4th century AD. So yeah, of course, after a period of time, there are a lot of Indian investments came. Actually, you are right. It's more than 650 Indian investments so far, and it is believed that around $5 billion is the amount which has been invested in Ethiopia, and it is creating around 75,000 employment in Ethiopia as well. So for the last decade, if I talk, so of course, our relationship has been tested by time, and in last decade we have faced COVID-19 for an example. So that is one of the biggest setback for all the businesses. But if even I consider it is a big setback, so but thereafter also there was around more than 15 Indian investments came since 2009 to Ethiopia. So that is of course it is showing that how Ethiopia has been an attractive destination for Indian foreign companies. There was, of course, some type of shifts in terms of Indian investment in last decade. So earlier, agriculture or floriculture and horticulture, these were one of the areas which were actually where Indian investments were investing a lot. But apart from that, it is now diversifying. So manufacturing is one of the aspect, ICT, healthcare, pharmaceutical, and these are actually continuous to be being diversified for the period of time.
Thank you. Ethiopia invested 10% of its GDP in infrastructure development, which is the largest in Africa, to create conducive environment for investors. The country also built a road covering more than 145,000 kilometers and is currently constructing additional 50,000 kilometers. Moreover, the country has built 780 kilometers Addis Ababa to Djibouti railway in order to facilitate import-export trade and also to address the growing demand in the transportation sector. The country has also built more than 13 industrial parks, hosting more than 180 companies. Ethiopia has also the second largest labor force in the continent in Africa, having more than 60 million active labor force. And regarding the investments, the restrictions on foreign investment have been lifted with the recent investment proclamation and investment regulation. And the country has also introduced various fiscal and non-fiscal reforms to facilitate especially foreign investment in the country. Given this background and the efforts that the government took to create a conducive environment for investors, how are the investors responding to this? And it would also be more enlightening if you approach this question by making comparisons with other countries in Africa, such as Kenya, Uganda, or Tanzania.
Yeah. So if I compare the reforms of Ethiopia with Uganda, Tanzania, or Kenya, so there are many similarities, of course. So like Uganda, if I compare or if I talk about Kenya, so of course they have also gone through the same process. So like they have established SEG, they have provided many facilities towards special economic zones. Forex is, of course, forex liberalization is one of the issue, of course. So yeah, so there are many similarities, and the good thing is that Ethiopia has its own benefit in many terms. And if I talk about sector-wise, so different sectors have its own opportunities. So as you said that Ethiopia has a large amount of labor force. So of course Ethiopia is a population of around 130 millions, and the good thing is that most of its population is of a young age, and it is actually it is a laborious, it is working hard. So young age means, in fact, the maximum part of population, it's actually it constitutes around 30 years of the age of average Ethiopians. So it of course it attract the industry which are actually oriented towards labor, so such type of textile or garment. And of course there are some industries like agriculture, if I talk about. So agriculture also, of course there is a huge demand, and agriculture, we are not actually considering Ethiopia only for feeding its own people. So we see Ethiopia and Africa as a food basket of the world. So like in every part of world, there are actually land are squeezing. So due to the enhanced urbanization and population, and of course, Africa is also facing urbanization. But despite that thing, of course, it is having a large amount of land. And if I talk about like digital Ethiopia, so digital Ethiopia itself actually, I was just reading an article today that 2 years back, the reach of digital banking and microfinance was limited to around 45% people, but suddenly it has increased to 65% of the Ethiopian population. So, of course, there are many areas which actually Ethiopia has shown its large potential. So, it's actually comparing to Kenya and Uganda, they can have their own benefits, but Ethiopia shares its own opportunity and benefits. And Ethiopia, of course, it has some strategic location. Its geographical location is really good, that it has a proximity of all part of world. So either you talk about Europe, or you talk about Asia, or you talk about US or Latin America. So therefore, Ethiopia has such a strategic location geographically that it can have export opportunity towards the whole globe. So that makes Ethiopia something really special.
Thank you. How about the challenge? What are the key issues or challenges that investors face at the time of making investment decisions, at the time of licensing, or even post investment during operations?
Yeah, there are challenges. Yeah, of course, Ethiopia has gone through the microeconomic reforms, but I feel that Ethiopia is still in a transition stage. So there are challenges of like currency volatility. If I say that investors are not sure that I am not talking specific about Indian investors, but overall perspective. That there are, of course, there are challenges of the currency volatility. So people are not very much sure that what will be their return. So like for last 1 year, the currency has been depreciated for more than around 150%. So suddenly their profits became quite less in the terms of dollar. The second thing, despite actually Ethiopia has many potential, but it is also true that many companies are still not working on full capacity. Their CAGR is low comparison to the other countries, even in the other countries in Africa. So these are some challenges, but I feel that Ethiopia is still on the right track. This homegrown economic agenda of Ethiopia is one of the great aspects that, of course, it has stabilized the macroeconomy of Ethiopia. It has increased the participation of private sector, and it is focused on market-oriented economy. So, despite these challenges, this is also the fact that Ethiopia has potential, and those challenges doesn't affect Ethiopia's potential at all.
It's known that India is the second largest trading partner for Ethiopia, and there are more than 500 or 600 companies currently in Ethiopia, out of which around 60% of them have been engaged in the manufacturing sector, and 13.1% are engaged in the agriculture sector. There are also investors in other areas, such as the pharmaceuticals and ICT sectors. But from the reports, it's clear that the manufacturing sector has been the most preferred area for Indian investors. So what made the manufacturing sector more attractive or a central focus for Indian investors?
Yeah, actually, yeah, manufacturing sector works in the line of basically the requirement of Indian investors, I would say. But first of all, I really appreciate you have done a lot of research about the sector. So manufacturing is not just only a sector, because it comprises a lot. So it includes, of course, it includes textile, and there are specialized industrial parks in Ethiopia. Either we talk about Hawassa Industrial Park or we talk about Bolelemi Industrial Park. So those industrial park is of course having a good quality of infrastructure, and having investment in industrial park, that itself a good attraction in Ethiopia, because you don't have a power issue, you don't have many logistical issue, and there is a one-stop solution in almost every industrial park. So that facilitated Indian investment in manufacturing sector. But we should remind that actually manufacturing sectors also comprises other important sectors like pharmaceuticals. So of course, Ethiopia has a great demand. Of course, 130 million population needs medicine, and this has also actually attracted the investment. The second thing is that, like some plans, like Ethiopia has shifted to a policy that it will prioritize the purchase of medicines from local manufacturing companies. So these are like import substitution. If I say that import substitution had driven Indian manufacturing sector also, and it actually made manufacturing sectors somehow more actually feasible and attractive in terms of foreign investments.
Do you think there are reforms or measures that the government should consider in order to make the other sectors more attractive as well? You can also address this in relation to the recent decision by the Investment Commission to open up the import sectors for foreign investors.
The government is doing actually in other sectors also. So for an example, I will say this: if I talk about the agriculture and agro processing, so in government is establishing agro parks, agro industrial parks. So some of the example is, of course, there was an agro park near Hawassa. So they have established. So it has, of course, it has increased actually potential for those sectors. So like if I talk about 30% of Indian investment, so in agriculture sector, so it not only includes this floriculture or horticulture, but also includes other new sectors, like one of the biggest investment you can see in the tea sector, that is in Gambela, that is Vedanta Harvest. Of course, in Amhara, there was another company, this Nirvana Processing. It is actually establishing a value chain in agri sector. So if we talk about specifically on agriculture sector, so because there is a development in the agriculture sector, so it will also push other related sectors. So like chemical and fertilizer can be one of the things, and Ethiopia normally works on the actually conventional technology, I will say. So there are a lot of opportunity on the agri technology, and in the fertilizer also, rather than going conventional, we can work on nano fertilizer. So these are the one of the potential sector which are related to the other sectors. So of course, leather is one of the thing, and for the ICT, if I talk about, so of course, Digital Ethiopia 2025 strategy, it itself actually milestone in the terms of Ethiopian economy, as well as sometimes we don't see that there are a lot of actually it is not physically seen. Okay, there are collaboration on investment is going on. So for the example, the one of the main pillar of Digital Ethiopia 2025 strategy is FIDA ID. So FIDA ID is based on, of course, you are aware that it is based on a open source platform that is called MOSIP, that is developed by Triple IT Bangalore. So so that you can consider as a investment. So yeah, and of course it creates, of course, opportunity for other banking sector, like banking sector is opening up in Ethiopia. So if banking sector opens up, digital economy is already working. So there are a lot of opportunity in the terms of fintech sector. And like Ethiopia is also opening up this telecom sector. So after Safaricom, actually Safaricom has already come. So Ethiopia is floating tenders for the second private license. So there are other sectors, and of course transport. Transport sector is one of the sector you are talking about. Ethiopia, of course, Ethiopia-Djibouti railway, and recently Ethiopia has granted multimodal licenses. So it is just a start. So sometimes actually people will fear that, okay, why should we take the risk as a first comer? But because actually Ethiopia is already actually ahead in this area, so other it will attract investment in other sectors also. Transport also, like Ethiopia has going towards clean energy transport. So that can be one of the things. So we are seeing that a lot of development in terms of charging stations and units for EV in Ethiopia. So those are the things. Renewable energy is one of the sector, because Ethiopia has lots of potential in terms of, we are talking about hydropower. Definitely, GERD actually GERD is almost completed with 5,500 megawatts. But other sectors also, like solar is one of the sector where there are opportunity for investment. Geothermal is the one. Biofuel is the one. So it has diversified potential, definitely.
Again, on the manufacturing sector, with the purpose of creating export-oriented and sustainable industry sectors, the government has already established a number of SEZs, and also the engagement of private entities in special economic zones is also emerging. However, following the suspension of the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, the export sector and the manufacturing sectors have been significantly impacted. This is evident from the fact that the export earnings from the industrial parks have declined by 24% in 2023. If we also see the leather and footwear industry, which relied mostly on the US market, 78% of the products were targeted for the US market, and out of which 91% were under AGOA. So therefore, this sector has been significantly impacted due to the suspension of AGOA, and the recent decision on tariff by the Trump administration has also did not also spare Ethiopia. All goods exported from Ethiopia will also be subjected to 10% the export tax. So in order to manage this, and also with the purpose of exploring alternative market space and economic alliances, Ethiopia has considered joining BRICS last year. What possible avenues would joining to BRICS avail to Ethiopia?
Before coming to BRICS, I will say that something happened with a lesson. So if I talk about AGOA, so yeah, after withdrawal of AGOA, there are of course impact on foreign direct investments. More than 15 companies, I think they closed. 11,500 employment was gone. So I see it's in a different perspective, that sometimes we make policies that can be vulnerable. So like that time, of course, there are a lot of investments in the textile sector specifically, which were actually done with the aim of to facilitate certain things. So it has its own vulnerability. So our policy should be in such a way that such things doesn't affect the overall export capabilities or production of the company. if again, if I go to the AGOA, so then what happening by that time? Ethiopia was exporting a lot of garment and textile products to some countries. But on the other hand, Ethiopia was also importing a lot of garments from other countries. So there was export, but there was no import substitution. So when AGOA was withdrawn, so there was temporary proclamation, I think, or regulation came in Ethiopia that garment manufacturers can sell 30% of their products to the local market. But why it is not 100%? If there are imports of the garment, and if those facilities can sell their products in the garment, so then it can ultimately cater its demand. So rather than focusing always on export, we can always work parallelly on the import substitution. And we can see that in the recent months and recent past, Ethiopia is also focusing on the import substitution. The second thing, there are other markets. Why we want to talk about the African continent free trade area? It is a market of 1.4 billion people. Yes. So COMESA is one of the thing. So BRICS, of course, I think in most of the member countries of the BRICS, Ethiopia is already having a good trade, good amount of trade. So we will see, we can of course work together that how we can strengthen it. But I personally feel that Ethiopia is already having a market, and therefore it is really doing well. So its export has been improved after last actually macroeconomic reforms, and that is really commendable.
During the third Invest in Ethiopia 2025 Global Investment Forum prepared by the Ethiopian Investment Commission, the Indian ambassador to Ethiopia, Ambassador Anil Kumar, pledged financial assistance to Ethiopia, leveraging its influence on the new development bank NDB, which is commonly referred to as BRICS Bank, and the Indian Infrastructure and Investment Bank. India holds the second largest share in the Asian Investment and Infrastructure Bank and also holds 90% shares in NDB. What impact will this financial assistance have on Ethiopia's economy, and also what are the sectors prioritized for this financial assistance?
Actually, we have been always supporting Ethiopia for its membership or its accession towards a new development bank. And there is no doubt, but actually I think this has to be decided by Ethiopian government that for which sector actually they want to prioritize. There are many sectors, and once they get entry into the new development bank, so I think because actually new development bank normally works with its, of course, country has their own voting rights and other things, but it is competent enough to decide on the sectors and but the normally actually what it happens that prioritize has to be set by the borrowing government, and if they ask for that thing, then NDB will decide. So, but we are always supportive, and we always supported the candidature of Ethiopia for NDB.
Thank you. Since gaining independence in 1947, India's trade policy has gone through dramatic economic transformations from strong protectionism during the early post-colonial decades to economic liberalization following the announcement of the set of reforms in 1991. To date, India's merchandise exports increased from 314 billion USD in 2013-14 to 451 billion in 2023-24, which showed an average growth rate of 5%, which is a very good development. But the turning point in India's journey toward economic liberalization was a set of reforms introduced in 1991. What were the major reforms that were introduced in India at this time, and what are the major lessons that Ethiopia can take in implementing such types of reforms? And if you have any recommendations on the reforms that Ethiopia should consider?
Yeah, actually, I think Ethiopia is doing more or less same. So if I compare India's economic reform with Ethiopia's economic reform, so the first thing was the exchange rate regime. So we have completely actually managed float foreign currency with gradual liberalization, and there is no difference between actually there is no parallel market rates in India, if I frankly speak. So that is actually one of the thing, and Ethiopia is doing in that aspect. And earlier, if you remember that the difference between parallel market and the exchange rate, it was beyond 100%. So now it has narrowed down a lot. The second thing also, ACZ, if I talk about. So India had given special incentives for the companies working in the SEZ. Ethiopia is also actually working in that regard. It has identified 10 industrial park out of 13 industrial park as special economic zones. And some company, including one Indian company, has got a license as a operator of the SEZ or FTZ. So this is actually one of the thing that again for working in SEZ or for inviting FDI, the export incentives are equally important. So no doubt it's no doubt that of course Ethiopia is also uh, providing incentives to foreign investors. It includes, of course, like the tax holiday, VAT refunds, and other many things. So, and of course, financial infrastructure. So India has developed financial markets and institutions, and this is one of the area I think we can means Ethiopia and India can work together for that thing. So uh, actually there are few gaps. If I highlight that, of course, there are sometimes there are lack in the capacity building. So we are always ready to assist Ethiopia in that thing, and for that, for capacity building programs also, India has been offering more than 400 slots every year for short-term courses to Ethiopia. So that can be one of the good platform. And apart from that, also wherever Ethiopia needs that it requires any customized courses for its capacity building program. So that also actually we can always work together.
Regarding the financial markets, what are the type of services or collaboration arrangements that Ethiopia and India can have, because there are various financial reforms that the country is going through currently? What would be those areas for collaboration?
Yeah, so we have seen a lot of, I think, I would say, digital revolution in Ethiopia. So that includes mobile banking, internet banking, and other things. So, but there are some lack of interoperability which they can learn from India, and we have always offered that we can work together. That in India we have developed one system that is called Unified Payment Interface, or commonly known as UPI. So UPI played a major role for digitalization of Indian economy, and we are the actually the biggest user in the world for this digital transaction now through UPI. So this can be one of the areas. The second thing, that of course access to finance. So sometimes actually if you ask too many documentary things uh, from from a person who wants to borrow money, so that actually that need to be regularized or liberalized in some way. So in India, like, we have a credit system. So for a, like, I have a credit rating for 800 points, and if somebody have a credit rating for 400 points, so banks can decide actually who actually to whom the loan can be easily granted, or to whom the for the access of finance they need more documentation, or for 400 credit rating they can ask for more interest rate because they are more vulnerable. So these type of things I think we can learn. And few things actually like if I if I go just beyond to the from the digital thing, so in India there are many other things which is connected with a digital ID. Our Aadhaar, that is digital ID in India, our Aadhaar and Ethiopia's FIDA, it's almost same because it is based on the same platform. So our interoperability is on the little bit on the larger scale. So like we have introduced DigiLocker. So in DigiLocker, I can keep all the documents. I can authorize any financial institution. They can go to the DigiLocker, they can verify my documents. I don't need to carry a single document to the bank. If I am if I am applying for a passport, I don't need to carry a single document to the this passport service centers. So I will just share my digital DigiLocker, and Ethiopia can in India, those institution can go and check and verify. So these has actually eased financial institutions works actually. So in Ethiopia also they are working, but it will take time. Of course, national ID is in a primary stage, but I think more than 50 millions has been registered on a FIDA ID, and they are targeting to do the complete registration by next year. So although this is quite ambitious, but we hope that this can be done so that Ethiopia can actually always work forward for such type of interoperability.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ravi. It was a pleasure having you here today.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.